Hello class, welcome to the week 1 lab review for our continuous case investigation. Wanted to start off with saying I appreciate all the effort that you put into this week 1 lab, especially with the collaboration that you folks put forth in the discussion forum. I encourage you to continue to collaborate with one another each week as new challenges are presented as we investigate the activity associated with Mr. Informant. And this is again simulating an investigative team. We're on an investigative squad looking at this registry activity, removable devices later on in the semester, and the PC that's associated with this corporate espionage case where Mr. Informant is the subject of our investigation. So think of it like that. Again, as I told you at the beginning of the course, this is really to set you up for other courses in the program as well, so far as the style of learning, and that we do encourage that team concept and collaboration with your fellow classmates. As always, as many of you did, please feel free to reach out to me with any questions, and I'll be happy to point you in the right direction. But all in all, looking through the lab so far, you folks are off to the right start, and I do appreciate your effort. And each week I will do my best to post up a video at the end of each week once all lab reports have been submitted, to just do a quick recap of the actual lab and the solutions associated with it. I will show you a set of tools that I use, and each week I may try to highlight different ones. It doesn't necessarily mean that's the only way. There are a host of tools that you can use that are on the Forensic VDI, and also other ones that I encourage you to check out as well, both commercial and open source, and I will try to give you a fair balance of that and give you some good exposure to some more open source tools as well that you can add to your forensic tool bag. So we start off with the question number 1, asking what are the hash values, both MD5 and SHA-1, of all the images. And so what I have here is the EO1 of the PC brought in, and with that I'm actually going to go into FTK Imager, and I right click and I verify the drive. Now this takes a little bit of time because we're looking at approximately 20 gigs of data here, and so I already started that process prior to us going to this video tonight. And this should be your computed hash and the stored verification hash. This is very important for us to do in our forensic imaging, in the sense that once we seize the evidence and we start the imaging process, we then go and do a hash verification as a part of our analysis or prior to our analysis. And this would typically be data that you would include in your forensic report, just showing that there were no changes in the evidence from the time that it was acquired through the analysis. And so your last 5 here for the MD5 should be Bravo 5, Bravo Delta Echo, and then for your SHA-1, just expanding this screen here, your last 5 there should be Foxtrot Delta 785 for the PC. Now I do recognize that we did not have in the Google Drive folder, as once was, the removable media that was there for number 2 and number 3, so I'm not holding you accountable for that. However, you would want to go in and actually add those evidence files as well, and so I will actually go out and do just that. And so I go out to my folder where my EO1s are stored, and those are on the drive now, so you should be able to access both removable 2 and removable 3. And I do apologize for that issue this week, as they were once there, but I've had some issues lately with some data being removed or moved around on my Google Drive, just with some of the updates that I've done there, so I do apologize for any inconvenience there. So we have here removable 2. I'll bring that in, and then I'll go ahead and bring in removable 3. That's an image file. And I actually, with this one here, the way that it was acquired, if you click on this text document, actually let me not actually bring in a text document into FTK Imager. Let me actually go out to that text file, because with FTK Imager, unlike Encase Imager, it does produce a text file with a summary of the extraction. So just to show you what that looks like, so we'll go up to removable 3, and there is the text file, and this is just showing you what is automatically produced by FTK Imager. Okay, Gives you a lot of good information. Tells you the media type, sector count, the size. Okay, so really gives you some good information there to go off of there. Now, as we go out and we look at that particular item, we have removable type 3. It's a disk image file, and I'll bring that in, hit finish, and so that's an ISO. All right, so let's take a look at the DD, and same thing there, verify the drive image. That'll take just a little bit of time. It's not a overly large file. And your last 5 for that would be Foxtrot Alpha Alpha 77 for your MD5, and then for your SHA-1, Charlie Alpha 0 Alpha 3. Okay, so now we'll do the same for removable 3, which is a CD, so optical media. We'll verify the drive image there. It's about 100 megs. And that should give us, for our MD5, last 5, 78990. And then for the SHA-1, the last 5 you see there, FF44F8. Alright, so that is question 1. Now, while we're in FTK Imager, question 2 says identify the partition information of the PC image. Okay, so we go back to the PC image. Okay. Partition 1, 100 megs NTFS, and partition 2, approximately 20 megs. I'm sorry, 20 gigs NTFS. And so the exact for the partition 2, which is the bootable partition, is going to be 19.9 gigs is what you're looking at. Now on to question 3. We start getting now a little bit into the registry, and so when we look at the registry, start analyzing it, it's good to keep a kind of a 30,000 foot view as to what the registry can provide you. So we're looking beyond the surface, starting to put together behaviors, patterns, trends of the actual user. So when we analyze the registry, it's best to categorize the types of items we will want to find into categories. So the first that we would look at is the user group profiling, and that's accomplished through viewing the SAM hive. Now this information will tell us when a user last logged in, number of times logged in, their identifier, so their SID, and we'll start usually our analysis here. And then we move on to the system configuration. Okay, that's accomplished through looking at the system or software hives. There you can look at information as to the way a computer system is set up, the networks it has connected to, and the time zone, other information. So just think system to giving you properties about that particular PC, time zone, things of that nature. You get into then the third part, which is broken up as the user activity, and that's where we start looking at the ntuser.dat. Now that's going to be in the subject's home directory, unlike the other registry hives that we're looking at. So as we all know, when we look at the system, the SAM, the software, security hives, that's going to be under the system root system32 config. So if I go out to partition 2 here, and I'm at the root, okay, then I go down to Windows, and then system32, I will then scroll down to config. Now, while that's loading, you'll see quite a bit of information, and then we go through the weeds, and there's config, and then here are SAM, security, software, system. Now, each one of these inside of FTK Imager, I just right click and I export. Now, I have already created a file on my desktop, a folder on my desktop, that actually has all of my registry hives saved. Okay. Now, the IntUser.dat, again, that's going to give us information that's going to be specific to that user. So in this case, looking at informant. Okay. So we can tell the recent documents, last programs that maybe informant had executed, commands they may have typed. So a lot of good information there from the IntUser.dat. Keep in mind though that it's going to be in the subject's home directory. So if I go back to ftcamager, I go back to my users. So I'm at root, went to users, and I go to informant. So I'm in his directory. Okay, this is where I'm going to find IntUser.dat. This was a question that came up earlier in the week. Where is IntUser.dat? It is not located under system32 config. It's under the actual subject's home directory. Okay. So when we start looking at the registry information, the first question that was asked, number 3, is explain the installed OS information in detail. Now I'm going to bounce back and forth between two tools, two open source tools for registry information. I'm going to first look at Registry Explorer, and naturally if it's asking me about operating system information, the operating system is based on software, so a good place to start looking is the software hive. Now this is a offline hive. I'm not looking at a live system. So I'm going to bring in the software hive, and I'm going to have to do a little bit of zooming because for some reason with Registry Explorer lately, when I open up a hive, it actually goes to this microscopic text mode, and you'll see that here in just a moment. And so I will go ahead and look at the hive. So I double click on it and it makes everything just microscopic. Luckily I have a great zooming tool. Alright, so I'm going to open up this hive. And when I start looking at this particular hive, I'm looking for the operating system information. Okay, and so I'm in software. I know this is a Windows-based machine, so I'm going to go into Microsoft. Okay, and then I'm going to go into Windows. And just scroll down. So I'm into Windows. And under Windows, I will scroll down to Windows NT. Actually, I started Windows NT. I made a mistake there, so not Windows. It's actually Windows NT, then current version. And once I click on current version, let me go up here. And this is what we're looking at. We're looking at version 6.1 of Microsoft Windows 7 Ultimate. Okay, the registered owner is informant. And the build number is 7601. And that's the information that we're looking for here, is the operating system information. Okay, again, under the software hive, Microsoft Windows NT, and then the current version. So that's question 3. Question 4 says, what is the time zone setting? So I'm still in system, okay? So I'm actually now going to go into the time zone. Now with time zone under system, I have to go to the current control set. Now let's talk about control sets just for a moment. That is a question that comes up frequently. So what is a control set? Well, it contains system configuration settings needed to control the system boot, such as driver and service information. So you'll see typically control set 1 and control set 2. Control set 1 is typically the control set that you just booted into the computer with. And this is going to be usually the most up-to-date version of the control set. Control set 2 is the last known good version. So this version is the one that is considered good when the previous boot occurred, in case something drastic maybe happened during the actual current boot cycle. So with what we're looking at here, we're examining the control set not on an active live machine. So a good way to think of it is that this would be control set 1 would be the last successful boot of the machine, and then control set 2 would be the previous successful boot before that. So for all intents and purposes for what we're doing here, we're going to look at control set 1. Not a bad idea though to still verify between multiple control sets, control set 1, control set 2. So I go out, I'm still in the system hive. Let's clean up a little bit here. And so inside of our system hive, Actually, I'm in software, so let me actually open up the System Hive. So we're going to load another offline Hive, and this is going to be System. Still in Registry Explorer. This is the free tool developed by Eric Zimmerman, former FBI agent. Great tool. Awesome that it's open source, and he has made quite a few contributions to the industry. Very thankful for that. So in the System Hive here, okay, and let's go and open this up. Control set 1, okay, under Control, and we're going to scroll down until we get to Time Zone. And there's Time Zone information, and let's see what's populated here. And so what we're looking at for Time Zone information, let's go to Values on this tab, is Eastern Standard Time is where we are. Okay. And what is the computer name? Now that we're in System, let's go ahead and look at the computer name. Again, System is telling us those things like time zone, physical location of the device, those types of artifacts, computer name. So still Control set 1, Control, and we'll come up to computer name, and we'll open that, and we can see that it's informant-PC. We get into question 6, and it asks us to start looking at some more detailed information here. Okay, so listing all accounts in the operating system except the system accounts. Now for this, I like to actually look at another tool that's another free open source tool developed by Mr. Harlan Carvey, and that is Regripper. Okay, Regripper will basically allow you to import a Hive, and it will spit out for you a text file with a report of what's contained within that registry. I like the way it presents the information pertaining to the SAM Hive, particularly because it's more comprehensive. So in this instance, I open up Regripper in my Hive file. I go to Browse, and here I'm doing SAM. Okay, and it says, where do you want to save your SAM file report? So for here, I just named it SAM report. Okay, and it's a text file. This is already done. And then I select the profile, which is SAM, and then I let it go to work. I just go to rip it. Okay, so that particular one is done, and this is what it looks like, just very neat and clean inside of Regripper. And so what we see here are the accounts listed. So we see administrator. Also beside of that, you have their SID, their SID. So admin, guest, here's informant. Okay, so their SID is 1000. Okay, it tells you login information, their password hint, if it can pull that. Okay, last login date, and the login counts 10. Okay, here's admin 11 with a SID of 1001. Okay, so this is the information that we're looking for question number 6. This is Regripper really giving us a great output here. Alright, so looking at the last user to log in. Okay, so we go through, and this is another thing I like about using Regripper, is it gives us a really good comprehensive overview of the actual groups contained on the system, especially really good with an enterprise. So we look at the last known user to actually log in. Okay, we just look at the date stamps. Last login date for informant was 25 March at 14:45, and it looks like that was the last user there, so that would have been informant. Would have been the last user to log on into the PC. And 2010, 2015 for informant. March 25th. Okay. Question 7 says, or question 8 asks us, when was the last recorded shutdown time, shutdown date, shutdown time. So for that, they are going back to system. So go back to my Reg Explorer. Okay, so we're still having to determine control set. So we're in control set 1, and we're going to go down to Windows, because Windows goes through the shutdown process, right? And so let me scroll down to Windows. let's see what information is provided to us here. Now, this particular information is given to us in a format that is not easy to interpret here. Okay, but what I like about Registry Explorer is it actually breaks that down for you, right, in a way that can be understood. You right-click and you say interpret the data, okay, because the way that it's actually presented to you, you actually have to convert that, okay, so we have to actually convert the hexadecimal back down to the Windows 64-bit that we can understand here, and that's going to be March 25th, 2015 at 15:31:05. That was the last shutdown. Question number 9 asks us the information of network interfaces. Explain the information. This was one that came up in the discussions a couple of times about what we were looking for here. So we're actually looking for a profile of the network interfaces, what's actually involved there. So still in System, Control Set 1, and then here we're going to go under Services. Okay, and once we're under Services, we're going to go to TCP/IP, and let's go out to Services. Actually, let me back out of here. I got a lot of things open, so let me actually close this. So we're Control Set 1, okay, and under Control Set number 1, I'm going to go out to my Services. Okay, and then once I get into Services, I'm looking at TCP/IP. Scroll all the way down. Okay, so TCP/IP, and then parameter, and then interfaces. Now we've got a couple of GUIDs here. What we're looking at for this particular item, we'll look at both of these. So no values for that GUID. And this is what we're looking for. Okay, so for this particular, this is on the local domain, and this is going to be Intel. So let's actually take a look and see how this is broken down. So we have a DHCP name server of 10.11.11.2, local domain, subnet of 255.255.255.0, and an IP address for DHCP, because the question specifically asked, explain the information of network interfaces with an IP address assigned by DHCP, and 10.11.11.129 is the DHCP IP address. Okay, then finally for question number 10, asking us about installed applications. And so number 10 says what applications were installed by the suspect after installing the operating system. This one can be a little bit tricky so far as the location because there are a couple places you can look, and different tools can give you different outputs. So what I like to do is if I'm unsure a little bit about something or if I'm getting some inconsistencies, I will go down to my RegRipper. So here I'm looking at my software hive, okay, and what I like about using RegRipper in this case is once I get the output into a text file, I can then go and do just a control find search, right, for the specifics that I'm looking for inside of the actual hive. And so I've done that, and here's my output inside of the software report from RegRipper. I did a control find for uninstall, and we start seeing some of the information. And what it tells us is that this information can be pulled from intouser.dat or software. If you're following the software path under the hive, you can look under Microsoft Windows current version uninstall, and then also under this WAL 6432 node, and you'll see that that actually is given to you. So if we look at just the software hive here, Microsoft Windows current version uninstall, okay, what we're going to find is the Microsoft Office or .NET framework. Here's an interesting one, Eraser. That's going to be a wiping utility. Microsoft Office Professional Plus 2013. Again, these are applications that were installed by the suspect after the operating system was installed. And then we see others that were pulled looking at this WoW node. So we have Google Drive, Apple Application Support. So again, Redripper shining very brightly here, giving us some really good information. Very comprehensive. And then finally, Microsoft Windows current version uninstall. Now, if we bring all this back into Redripper, I don't think it's quite as comprehensive as what you get. I'm sorry, into Registry Explorer. I don't think it's quite as comprehensive. This is my intuser.dat. Okay, and inside of intuser.dat, just close some of this up. Here's that WoW 6432 node. Okay, and I see installed components here. Okay, going through each one of those. But then if I go back up to my software hive and go to Microsoft, and then if I go to Windows, and then under Windows, looking for uninstall, I get fairly good amount, but there's some that are not necessarily there that might be missing. So this could be a little bit misleading. Well, here's one CCleaner that was deleted. Okay. Again, this is just where I like, in this particular instance, Redripper. But again, that's totally your preference. But Redripper does give the comprehensive overview of the installed applications after the operating system. So that's a little bit of look at Lab 1. Again, just keep in mind with the registry, the mindset, there's a lot of good information we can pull. Keep in mind intuser.dat is found in the user's home directory, while the other ones are at the root under System32 under config. Keep in mind the control sets, typically control set 1 is typically the one that was just booted into the computer, and it's usually the most up-to-date version of the control set. Okay. And that's a wrap for the week 1 overview. Let me know if you guys have any questions, and hope you guys have a great rest of this week, and I'll be in touch soon. Take care.